So this is where we go in the beginning for 10 days and we learn the wooing book. And this is Heiner in the best horse stance I've ever seen him have.
Wow.
At Monastery. This was a really cool monastery that Heiner, monastery, was a temple by the, that's another story.
Heiner still owns it.
Heiner still has an interest on Ching Chong, learning the dragon law.
Yes.
Harry.
Harry was such a carry. He was a very clever guy. Knew how to get the best goddamn horse after Heiner.
Well, he's a horse person.
Yeah, he's a horse person. Knew how to pick it out and get what he wanted.
Who's Sylvester Stallone?
What's that?
Sylvester Stallone, you talking about?
You go on.
Ben keeps reminding me of Paul Rosenberg.
Get one of this.
There he is. And then this is when we head out toward the borderland. Gets higher and rougher. And then you get into these little valleys that have these little stone houses with small fields into them that you only can get into on horseback, really.
Wow. A foot.
Or foot, by foot.
This is kind of the roads that you go on to get there.
That is amazing. Is that Heiner with that hat on his head?
Yeah.
And at this point,
Steve Marston.
the bus is broken, and we just rolling down for gravity. This is like two different buses combining into one, and we rolling down. It was totally overloaded.
Locke Chandler in the middle. Anybody know Locke?
I do.
And Steve Marsden.
And Steve Marsden.
Sylvester.
Steve Marston by now is the world's most famous alternative veterinarian.
And then we graduated from buses to pickup trucks.
Somebody a lot younger.
There's Laurie's town.
Nice
We'd sleep in
colors.
monasteries.
This is in Tago.
Oh yeah.
Exciting.
And this was kind of what the roads were like then.
Is that snow? What's that?
Water.
It's just flooding that
What?
year. That year was terrible.
Huge
It was
floods.
the worst floods they'd had in 100 years. So Bill's not kidding when Heiner had this like, we're keeping going, and we're literally the bus would go, stop, and we'd have to walk across the mudslide while the bus would by itself go. And sometimes it couldn't get over, and so like another one would have to meet us on the other side, and we'd keep
Wow.
Yeah, get to the other side and negotiate for, transportation further on.
Water.
Oh my gosh.
What region is this?
What's that?
What region of?
Kam. West
Oh, this is in
Sichuan.
Kam too.
This is in Kam.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is in a place called Daochan, which is getting close to Yunnan. That's that area that they call the Shangri-La.
My goodness.
They would, the bridges had been washed out so whole towns were cut off, and they would build these kind of makeshift ones to get in.
Bill, these are on this thing here? Yeah? This is on here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Because they'd be worth to be included in the book project. Yeah.
Whatever we could get on the other side of wherever we got stopped.
Oh yeah.
Not everybody made it.
We stopped for 2 hours to wait for this bus in front of us to get pulled back on the road by the crane. But he had been there for 24 hours, so if we'd gotten there 24 hours later, we would have had to wait that long for them to pull this bus back.
24 hours earlier. Yeah.
Well, the way this whole trip started, we were supposed to go through this new tunnel right through this mountain and make it in how many hours? Like 6 hours, but the tunnel was blocked, so we had to go around the mountain. It took 24 hours of this woman yelling in this guy's ear to keep him awake, keep moving.
You talking about the 97 trip? Or
No, this is
98?
98. This is 98, yeah. This is the woman. Well, I'll have a picture of her later. It's a good. It's a good picture.
That's not the
You
year
mean
we.
Zhangzijiang or?
No,
Uh,
no. This
Oh,
was the
okay.
Sichuan Mountaineering
Oh,
Society.
she was horrible. Oh my God, a translator.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
I bought the sword from this guy.
You
It's like
did?
a really cool carved bold sword, and he was happy to get the amount of money that we settled on.
You still have the sword?
I give it to my sons. I don't know that he really values it.
Yeah.
How would we possess it? All these cool pictures.
Yeah, Bill was afraid. Oh, that's great.
Is she golfing? What's she do?
And would we get stuck, there would be these local girls who would be willing to carry all our bags across the landslide for us so that we could
It would take the
walk
stuff
without
from
our
the big American guys and carry it for them.
Yeah. These like 60-year-old girls carrying 6 of our bags across the landslide.
Well, it's the same thing with us being on, we're on these like little Tibetan horses and the people leading us are like 70-year-old barefoot Tibetans. We're all like the Americans on the horses.
Yeah, this is going across, it's like a landslide where no way the bus was gonna, or whatever we were in could get across. So we would have to walk across and negotiate on the other side.
That's mud, like still sliding.
Still sliding, still moving mud, yeah.
How
It's like
exciting.
the humiliation was the least of your worries.
Yeah, it was not becoming completely exhausted and dying.
Wow.
Oh, that's an awesome show.
Yeah.
Look at that.
This was the morning of the day of which I wrote, in which, no, 2 days before, the morning before the day in which I wrote, in which there was this huge attempted coup where Ben tried to get the best translator who spoke some English, Tibetan, and Chinese in a small group and stay where they were and have fun rather than go to the special sacred valley we were all going to. So there was this big confrontation where I basically said, you remember back in Portland when we all agreed that we would stay with Heiner and stay together on the trip? Do you remember you're pledging that? If you go off and break this, you are not a person that can be trusted.
And you gave that, and then Heiner, it was like 80 degrees in the morning, this beautiful day, totally sunny, and we're about to take off to go up to Shangri-La. And Ben's like, we haven't had enough chance to meet the local people, we have to stay. So Bill gives this speech, and then Heiner gave another one. He said, look, you can do what
He was
you
so
want.
wu-wei, he was willing to go with it anyway at Tum.
No, Heiner said,
Yeah.
you can do what you want, like you can, but this is a challenge, like if you really mean it, and anyway, everybody ended up going, so we start climbing up these hills.
Well, so first there was, all the villagers brought their various horses, and then they handed out gifts and cigarettes and whatever, and then they chose through some sort of randomized way who was going to ride which horse. And the horse that fell to me, when I started to get on it, I pulled it over on top of me. It was not a huge horse. So they said, oh shit, what do we do? And they went back home and got their mule, which had never had a person ride on it, ever. And it just had like a pack, a wooden pack frame on the back. And we threw some things on, and no stirrups. And this animal was used to being tied onto the back of a regular horse. And so when it discovered that I was trying to guide it like a horse, instead of just being pulled along on the back of this other horse, just would totally freak out and run off in random directions. But this was where it was decided who would get which horse.
Oh my
This
God.
is, by the way, very
Yeah.
interesting, because when you look at that book, you see that all the way until the 1970s or so, people were wearing traditional Tibetan ethnic clothing, and then this is sort of half and half. And if
Yeah.
you go now in these areas, everywhere in China, everything's completely Hanicized.
Right.
Like it was interesting going into Vietnam in 2014. There, the local Miao Hmong, they were wearing clothing that I remember seeing in China in the 80s. So they're like still sort of like 30 years behind that process, but in China itself, you can't distinguish the Han and the
Yeah.
ethnic minorities.
This is
Wow.
setting
It's like
up, and all the paths were in flood anyway, so you basically had to follow the runoff.
I don't think I've been.
Like Moses.
What's that?
I
can't
have some
remember
Latvian
my
pictures, I don't have any of that. I remember that like yesterday going up that river valley because we were literally riding inside of that river, there was no other room.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times what path there was would be just totally washed out. There'd just be a gorge there and you'd have to get off the horses and somehow get across and lead them across.
Wow. That's pure right there. So beautiful.
These horses weren't very
So
big
it's
for the most part.
What is that?
Which one?
It looks like Metro, but it
It's a
can't
lock.
be.
I think that's Locke.
Well, it's locked,
and
but who's behind him?
Maybe Ben?
That's
That's my
Michael
brother.
Stockmauer.
Oh, it's your brother,
Oh.
Lucas.
Oh.
Lucas and Stadtmauer, yeah, I think. Lucas on the left and Stadtmauer's on the right.
Big dogs.
You see the people going up and there's very little trail actually to follow.
Awesome.
Chihiro?
Yeah.
These are great,
That
though.
picture,
Did you see any snakes?
the color.
No snakes?
A lot of times the trails were just totally washed out and you'd have to walk across what was washed out along the creek to
That
get where
looks
you were going.
dangerous right there.
People said to me, like, you keep coming back every year? Like, I'm like, you kidding me? This is the best.
And you can see this is a complete washout. The Chinese have been just deforesting Tibet like crazy when they have years like this with a lot of rain, just the whole thing washes out.
There's a great book called Ama Ade, a voice that
yeah.
remembers, and she describes how that got deforested in the 1950s and how the Chinese devastated. Here's that woman that Bill was talking about.
See, this is the guy on the left was the Tibetan headman, and he was such a cool guy. And she was such an incredible horror. She could not talk to anybody
Horror?
without, yeah, yeah, of course. Was not referring anything gender-wise. But she could not talk without yelling. She just constantly yelled at everybody about everything, and it seemed to have, I mean, she did it so much it obviously had worked for her, through most of her life, But particularly the Tibetans, she couldn't not just yell at them like they were animals that were poorly trained. It just was really annoying. And this guy was so cool. But I think originally he had such a reaction to her that he took us on this particular route. When we actually got to the Sacred Valley and then got ready to get home, by that time we had made a relationship with him so that our trip home took half the time that our trip there, more or less than half the time. It was really nice and easy. So exactly what was going on here, it was hard to say, but they were constantly fighting, and Heiner was just trying. He believed with all his heart that the Sichuan Mountaineering Society was professional and knew how to run an expedition like this and could get us up there and back easily. But
Well, it was also
we had these.
Shifu had set it up, so you don't want to kind of start a fight with them. But it was annoying because she was like this communist kind of you know, really
could tell
treating
she was a
Tibetan
party leader or
poorly.
something.
Yeah, she was horrible. I mean, look at her.
Picture says a lot.
Yeah.
That picture says it all.
WTF.
And of course, Heiner gets it from all sides. It's like all of Wimpy's students that wanted adventure, but not like this. And then this struggle between the Chinese and the Tibetans.
At one time we were at 14,000 feet and out in the open, exposed to thunder and lightning, and we get up in the morning and the Tibetans said, all the horses have run away. Can't go any further. So that was their way to demonstrate against the Chinese bossiness, and we were like, what the fuck is going on?
When we got up there, and Becca Miki was there, and she was hypothermic.
Yeah, she was.
So Harry quickly, Sylvester Stallone set up all the tents, and Steve Marsden grabbed Becca and just like pulled her into a bear hug and warmed her up so she would.
Yep.
No,
Then
he
they
was
got
mox
into it.
busting.
Well,
You were
Steve
mox
pulled her.
busting her, right? Weren't you?
Yeah, but
No,
Steve pulled her
actually-
into a tent. They set up
Yeah,
a tent.
they got naked in a sleeping bag in the tent.
There you go.
That was the major. That was the major.
I remember
thing.
that.
It
That's
is.
how it
And then-
works.
And
I
Wu
remember
didn't take.
you
Wu
mox
was there.
busting.
Yeah.
And he didn't take it seriously that, you know, Heiner said, bring a sleeping bag, bring, you know, stuff. And Wu didn't bring anything like that with him, so here
Well,
we
he
are
was in a
sleeping.
tent.
I
With you.
spent
We're
a
sleeping
night.
14,000 feet, and I had a sheepskin that I bought, so that I said, here, you can take this and sleep on it. And
And you wanted to be
It's
Mr.
still
Tough Guy.
no, but they smelled like they still have that like terrible. Remember that stuff that smelled terrible? And he goes, maybe I will not.
So
He
spent
got up in the morning and he was clearly like absolutely frozen.
he
trying
spent
to
the
pretend
whole
he was
night in the
okay.
lotus position next to me in this tent, 14,000 feet, and it was below freezing in
Raining.
his shirt sleeves. And
What?
and I was wet and cold and didn't sleep a wink. And it occurred to me later that maybe I should have invited him into my cold bag.
You'd have
but
been
at the
wondering.
time, it did not occur to me.
Bill, I think he would have said, maybe I will not.
No, it's you.
You know what's beautiful about that picture? That's righteous indignation. That's like perfect.
Her, you mean?
Which
Yeah,
one?
her. Yeah.
Maybe not righteous.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Maybe unrighteous.
You see, the horses couldn't get up that. You would have to lead the horses. It was like loose, broken rock, and it was damn 14,000
That's like,
feet.
no, this is like higher than that.
The top was 15.5 the second day when we got up.
Wow.
This is
Piece
the
of
top.
cake.
You can see this little thin line across us
Oh, yeah,
on
I
a
see
trail up there.
that. I remember,
Yeah.
It's like 11,000.
I know,
And
I'm
we had to
surprised
get off
not-
where the horses couldn't get enough air. Everybody was short of breath. And the Tibetans, their red blood cells can carry more oxygen than the average person. And then comes everybody else, and then comes Asian people other than Tibetans. They fairly poor, so we had a Japanese American with us, and she was like, she thought she was dying. She was like, it was like a little bit scary. We had to-
Homeopathic tobacco and coca.
That's why we gave
And
her.
cigarettes.
The cigarettes work.
Cigarettes
better than
actually work better than
anything.
anything.
Better than anything.
Tobacco.
Wow.
Homeopathic and
Well, good to know. Good to know.
Went on forever.
It's the worst.
We took forever because it was like one step rest, take another step rest.
And no visible trail for the most part. You know, I think they were just leading us kind of on someplace they'd never been before. Just to,
Probably.
It's a mess.
yeah, the Tibetans, they were teaching the Chinese a lesson
Right.
somehow.
Oh, man.
That is the,
Then you would get to these places, you know, you don't understand how they got the rocks up there even.
the rocks were there.
That's fair.
Wow.
They really were forts, you know, and they had these like huge snarling dogs chained at the entrance, so you couldn't get in unless
Really?
somebody was there to calm the dog down so you could get in.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow.
Which means a wolf dog.
Take the dogs on meat.
These were really such cool houses. though.
Doesn't
They
that
were-
look like Shangri-La here?
Yeah, it does actually. Now.
Yeah, and that horse truck we went on in 2004 was like a piece of cake compared to.
Well, that's another story.
Should take a picture of the dog so we could see what it look like.
So this is the first floor where they keep the animals.
Is that
Is that you?
is that a black person?
10 minutes and it's gonna run out? But we're talking battery,
Okay, Heiner.
but it hasn't been an hour and 20 minutes. We had an hour and 20 minutes.
I ran a little bit in the beginning.
Ah,
Sorry. Do you have another card?
I do have another card. It's in on my desk next to the computer, still sealed.
Oh, it look like my
We're getting there. We only got 2 minutes.
It look
It
like.
looked like you're there.
Hey, Bill, is that me over there?
Is that what?
Me?
You? Might be. I could see you in this place, actually. These houses were so cool. You know, the animals lived on the first floor so they could pull them in case of the invasion. And then they lived on the next floor and they had like a hole in the roof for the smoke to come out, no smokestacks.
Wow.
But the rooms were really cool. And then up on another floor up on the roof where that's the animals living down below them.
Nice.
This is a roof. And you could, you know, they had command, you know, they could see people coming for long ways and shoot them.
Wow.
This is me with the old monk and the boy in that, there's a long space, you notice, between,
Yeah.
between where
He was
where we left the pleasant village with the cool houses to get to the Shangri-La.
He was super excited to get his hands on pictures of his monastery from a 1928 National Geographic report him because they got destroyed in 1959 by the Red Guards, so they didn't know how to restore them. So they did.
Wow, that's great. You brought the magazine with you?
Yep, we did.
I don't have a picture of the one-horned goat. Somebody must have one somewhere.
Was it a unicorn? You were in Shangri-La.
This is his room.
He was like the most sulfuric person I've
Yeah.
ever met.
Usually, you know, the Rinpoche's room is so tidy and all brocade and silk, and his room was like everything.
But all over in this area where he lived with these stupas with these stones that he had carved prayers into them. Thousands of them, I swear.
Well, and all the pilgrims.
Where's the pyramid?
This was a woman who came up to us in the monastery. The whole side of her head was
Dented in.
smashed in. She'd been in the gulags.
What's a gula?
Like the
The
labor
prison,
camps.
the labor, you know, the prison concentration camps that the Chinese had for the Tibetans in
Aww.
the 60s.
Chinese version of Siberia.
Her eyes look deformed too.
This is the sacred valley. And me on my
Your
my
ski
mule
instructor.
friend.
Awesome pictures.
That's Ursula back here.
Your cape.
Really great.
Don't you think that's Ursula?
This is the guy whose mule it was. We had a very troubled relationship. You know? You see, he was a modern Tibetan, and he also thought he would take us for a lot of money, but that he wouldn't even find a damn saddle for me on this thing or any kind of stirrup. You notice that there's no stirrup. There's just like a cord tied around one of my
So
feet.
Bill, when you got thrown, I thought your foot was caught in a stirrup.
In the cord?
One of the women who had the horse that this one usually followed behind took pity on me and said, "Ride my horse for a bit." But the stirrups were so short that I had to like sit on the back of the saddle, and the horse just thought, "Oh, this is weird." And he just went into the first tree he could find and knocked me off.
We
Most
go-
of the time, I would love to have had a stirrup, but see how I'm holding on to this thing? It's a pack mule. It's never been ridden. But I wouldn't allow this boy to lead the mule. I wouldn't be led on a mule up a
Yet
mountain.
still you look like King
look
Arthur.
like Lousy.
So dignified.
Oh, yeah.
Like a Peshmerga fighter.
Indiana Jones.
That's Harry. He got a good horse.
In
And
front of, which was this mountain was
Shin
the
racing.
no, it's the other
that's
one.
the
It's
biggest
the,
horse.
That's the most
Mandela
bitch they've got.
he was a clever guy. And he was
They still
short
look like
too.
part
These are
mule,
all
they don't look like all
Mandela
horse, you know?
Heiner had a good horse.
No,
too.
Manjushri
Wow.
That's the opposite.
This is what we pretended was
This
the
is
mountains, but it
tradition.
was actually just the foothills in front of the mountain. The mountain went up.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, this is a mountain that they consider a personification of Guanyin energy. So they will drink the water that comes off the glacier at this particular time because it's like the sacred elixir. The dew of Guanyin.
Wow.
And we're doing Qigong over in the corner, I think. I had a picture of it. Really was an amazing place.
Ooh, wow.
Ah,
That
there
person
it
looks
is.
familiar.
That was our
Smoking crack.
Jen Bruisewitz.
Nora.
Wong in
Very
his,
well
or Wu in his shirt sleeves.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Wow.
right.
It looks pretty cold over there.
Jeannie Breeze.
Oh, we were freezing.
Oh, gosh, he's wearing shirts and
Luca
shirts.
Mm-hmm.
and Wu.
And my brother who since died. Yeah.
Wow.
Ursula.
He has some strong blood.
And this is the guy where we got the barley bread and the yak cheese.
Mm.
She's got some pictures.
Right, well. Wow.
That's a great shot.
That cat looks like 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
Butter, making butter.
And yak cheese.
Wow.
This was the churn that he made the yak cheese in.
One of these guys saw Steve Marsden and said the guy just like stopped him and was like, never seen anything like you before.
Oh, because he was so round.
Well, just, we were probably the first foreigners to ever make it up into this
Yeah.
valley. And
Since 1928, yeah. Since Joseph Rock was there.
Mm.
This is what I look like.
Indiana.
I looked a lot worse than this looks like I looked. I was really, really almost dead.
Oh, come on!
You know, you kind of look that way.
You were worried about it here.
I think you still have that sweater.
There's a new book that just came out that I bought. It's called What Doesn't Kill You, ...
makes you stronger. It's
Or, or, or it takes 15 years
Oh,
off your life.
Or both.
This is it's just some more shots of the roads.
Oh my
And
God.
Heiner found us a hotel that was like plywood on sawhorses with yak hair on it. And these were the
and
best.
raw live electric wires running down the wall.
It was Beaver's place.
And we decided maybe we could do, maybe he could do better.
Maybe we will not.
And he found this place that was like the old party hotel. You know, everything was like red satin.
The only thing is you had to walk outside to go to the bathroom, make sure
And
you
there was
didn't
a
step in
dog
the ditch
inside.
that was full of shit, literally.
Ah.
You go into the outhouse
And
and
there's this animal in it.
and that's where you saw like all these tapeworms crawling around.
Oh,
yeah.
Like, seriously.
But there was hot water.
There's
And it was
Becca.
warm. This was a real Compa cowboy. These were people we
Oh God,
stayed
look
with.
at those dudes. Look at the guy on the right. He looks so scary.
Maybe he doesn't
Oh
own
my
a
God.
toothbrush.
They look like West Virginia.
This was the head man that was a really cool guy.
He was my brother's horseman. Yeah, he stayed.
And he
inside.
invited us to spend the night when we got back to the.
He has good eyes.
Yeah, he was really kind. He couldn't figure out why the heck we were doing this. You know, we were obviously not Tibetan Buddhists, but what were we? And why did we have to go to this special valley and this?
Running for your life. I'm so.
But he finally kind of got it and realized we were indeed sincere and got into it with it.
Oh, and what's his name?
Gino or something like that.
No.
Dino.
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 Dino, yeah.
That's Dino from LA who works in
It's
the.
a DP.
I remember I was.
He made
Back to the
movies with
beginning.
John
She
Grisham.
had a sunny son Paul.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
So when we got up to the place where we get in with this guy who's the Rinpoche, and he's feeding us tsampa, and we're sitting around in there, and after things are being translated from Tibetan into Chinese into English, and after about like an hour or something, he pulls out this manila envelope full of postcards that one guy probably before us ever had gone who was not, and Heather George says she knows who that guy is. He's from Telluride, Colorado. Because all these postcards were of Telluride, Colorado, you know, the Rinpoche. And I said, can I see those? And I looked through them, and in one of the postcards was a back street in Telluride. In the middle of that postcard, I'm like, I lived in that house. It was the most bizarre thing, getting through all of
Stuff
that
like
to
that
get there.
always happens on
And
these
he has a postcard, and you'd never see a postcard like that in Telluride. It was just like a back street on a dirt road, and in the middle of that postcard was the house I lived in one summer.
That's cool.
Well, anyway, if they want a story of us communing with nature with pictures to go along with it, we've got them, and there's a lot of good pictures of that trip that day, I think.
There are.
Yeah.
Will there be a problem
Oh.
that it's Tibet, or is that no
No.
an issue?
Where's the rest of the story about the 4 ones?
It's 9:30. I have
Oh, I
this
see,
strict
okay.
rule at 9:30.
All
Everybody,
right, okay.
when I've
To
got
be
it,
continued.
I'll send the whole thing to you. I've got like 5 pages, and this
Okay.
is 2 pages of it.
Awesome, great.
Oh, we don't care.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks for
This
coming.
was nice.
That was good, Bill.
That was good.
Excellent.
That's great.
Hi, Laurie.
Wow.
Yeah,
Laurie,
thanks
where
for
are you from?
Where am I from?
Yeah.
Like,
Iceland.
Where are you from?
New England.
originally?
Yeah, I want to figure out your accent.
Oh, I was born outside Philadelphia,
Ah.
but I don't have that accent. And then we moved to upstate New York outside Rochester, and I don't have that accent.
Where did you get that accent?
I don't know. I because my father was really adamant that none of us got a Rochester accent.
You did what you,
Dad, how do you pronounce Dad?
you did,
That's my family.
you just did what you could with it.
Yeah.
Martha.
Awesome.
That was my
Get
name
your
for
dad.
24 hours, 48 hours. My name was
Martha?
Martha Louise.
Oh, wow.
And then my parents changed it to Regine.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting.
Nice.
I would have been Marty. Did you ever
That's,
go
my
by
mom
Marty?
named me Martha, so that people would call me Marty, and I just recently opened all my baptism stuff and everyone wrote to Marty, but no one's ever called me Marty.
That's funny. What's your middle name?
Helen is my mom's name. It sounds like a butter churner in Nebraska, Martha Helen.
Laurie, you sound Norwegian.
I want to send one
Oh.
for a picture of this gathering. If we can.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
let's
looking together.
send him.
So you don't work at
Get
Mrs.
together.
anymore though? You're not there
Oh, I
now.
never did work there.
Oh,
Andrew's
oh, sorry,
husband
I was
worked there.
going this
I
way.
worked at NUNM.
Okay.
I was going that way.
And your name? The not-for-profit, okay. Oh yeah, Miles, you still work there? Because I go there,
Yes.
I haven't seen him there.
He hasn't been there for a long time.
Okay.
But I used to see him every day.
He worked at the one on Portland Boulevard, and then he moved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, maybe
I
you
go
know.
to stores, I know people.
What are you eating?
Recognized, so.
Oh.
How long have you been practicing Qigong?
Since I took my first class when in
Come on,
1994
Jamie.
Yeah.
with Heiner.
Okay.
Here you go.
Yeah, I did some Tai Chi in Shingi before that in Boston.
How do you wanna do this?
You probably wanna, if you can sit down there.
Started in the summer after,
I'll sit by
No, you
my
have to
96.
scoot over.
The trick is you need to
95,
get
December
everybody as many
95 for
people.
Florida to Portland.
We test you when
I'm gonna
it's.
get the lip seat between
And
my
then I
and
went to
my
China and then
Are we taking a picture?
Yeah.
and then again in
Yes.
2005.
Picture.
Get as many people in it as we can.
I wanna show my red
Laurie,
pants.
And then this
come
year.
here.
Oh, get a picture, don't you?
good spot.
And then come sit by me.
Maybe turn off that.
I heard the secret recently. Somebody said you're not supposed to say cheese. You're supposed to actually say money because it drops your chin.
That makes sense. I think cheese makes people.
Okay, ready? Say money.
Okay.
Okay, got two.
Okay.
Do it now.
Money.
No, take a selfie, come take a
Got
selfie.
three.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
You have to be
Did it come out okay?
Are we bright enough?
Get her.
No, we're pretty dull group.
I don't know.
Oh, look at your face. Oh, she's
More
like
pictures.
Okay. Say dinero.
L'argent. Did you take two?
Okay. They click twice.
This was rather comfortable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Wow.
Thanks, you guys.
Start saving up for our adventure.
Yes. Oh gosh, I got saddle sores.
Like the song.
Yeah, I guess that was just thinking.
Oh man, that did not look good.
You missed your chance to develop.
Get back down, I'll help you out. My God.
Very different.
I was calling your name, but
It's how you stay on a mule.
Any horse tracks?
Too big of Jimmy did that. He might have to help him broken.
Any horse tracks?
No.
Not pioneered the mule stance.
No.
You're just staying in one location, not moving.
I was pissed off.
I ended.
All the time. I thought it should be smarter.
Peter Dedman was scheduled
I
to come
couldn't
on
accept
that.
his action.
The guy who wrote that, and then at the last minute he bailed out.
You know, it should be able to
Afraid
follow
because he talked to
directions.
his daughters or his granddaughters on the phone.
Was he pissed off too?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it just was weird to have somebody on its back.
Yeah, you're
gonna be all right.
Somebody who should make the ability about animals.
Okay. We need a pilgrimage though.
I ignored him when he could, and he realized, shit. Or when he realized that the ass of the horse that it usually is tied to wasn't there. Sometimes it really would just get totally frantic and start baying and running all over.
I was fine with everything.
Do you think I'm on the right track with this kind of?
You're on the right track. Nothing I would want to change.
Oh.
Steve Morrison, the guy who's the veterinarian,
Yeah, I think that's about how high I
he actually.
And everyone walks
He
on
said he
it.
was not really
You know
good.
what?
He
Put
felt
some
that
feet
way.
Number one to get out of here.
Guys, what I want to try and not wake you up.
Oh,
I didn't feel compelled to provide an alternative version.
Come back tomorrow, you here tomorrow?
No, I would like to read your version of it too.
I've been trying to follow the
Now that
message
it's
in
been
return
revived.
for real horse dance.
Just the color.
It's been a long time. Yeah, since I was really doing horse dance.
Yeah, I mean, you always talked about that trip.
So you didn't have like a training regimen other than do the horse
Now I'm
dance.
like, okay.
The 96 trip, but I felt like the
What?
96 trip was harder than this one.
Like
because it was so.
My old like
the
Kung Fu
day
training,
when-
like
No, this was the,
this was the first thing that I learned
so
was to
2003.
There's also a piece of it, he didn't.
Part you
picture
didn't
it.
go
Oh,
on.
the part.
Yeah, it was like,
here's
where your feet go, here's where
Carol
your thighs
Ferris
are,
did
this
it,
is where
you
your
know.
Carol Ferris,
here,
Ryan
your hands
got
are
it.
here, like,
I loved
do
it.
that.
Yeah.
We're gonna do
Like
that,
the
start at the
dramatic
Andy
beginning.
was his
kind of
name.
change out
Like
of the
that.
box and then just
Yeah.
climb
Bus,
the
and
road.
we were like, oh, so happy to see
Maybe
you.
back
And he was
down
like,
and
One of my. I've never done it like thighs parallel before.
Sank in the mud.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
And
Oh, yeah,
the
it's
other one,
horrible.
for some unknown reason,
I've done
followed
like
it.
this.
Even
But
though it's
then,
not
you know,
happening
then-
also. And so,
How we got there and how we got back to Chengdu,
you
those
know.
are.
That's fine, and it's weird.
More chapters. I thought I
Yeah,
did
this
this
was,
on that day, just too much probably
minivan kind of
for the
thing.
context.
Meanwhile, everybody
Plus,
else
I
is
don't
sitting
remember.
in the
15 minutes,
rain
15
back
minutes.
to this one band. So they made up a movie of
Yeah.
the trip.
Doing it right now, like that's,
Yeah.
I could do that for about 8 more
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah. I was just gonna
But
say
it
that.
counted as an ordeal. Yeah, Steve Marsden's got a tape.
Overload just this, you gotta like sit back, you're hips have to go
All of us.
way up.
Well, I can't
Yeah, and the glutes
Well,
are
the water
really
bag
good,
too.
the lower back and then.
Yeah.
It becomes a really
Well,
like
we decided that
inguinal thing.
Yeah.
It's like
You're wild.
somewhat, it's like
Oh,
iliacus and like gracilis get really strongly engaged.
Oh, Alan Guinness, I think. Either that or the French guy.
is that your bowl?
Maybe.
I think I
Yeah,
was,
we'll take it.
Okay, I'll take it, I'll serve you tonight. Only tonight. Hey, bro, that was
I didn't
some.
realize they were doing
Jen
it.
Briscoe's got the best, she got the
Very
The thing is, you don't make it, it's not like crap, it's not like crap rum, it's like really healthy rum. You don't get drunk. You have just a little bit of that.
So are we meeting tomorrow?
No, not tomorrow night. I was gonna send out an email tonight about.
Okay, the movie come out.
Alright, I'll be working on it.
That just
I'll
reminds
bring
me.
over the,
That reminds me of the trip.
yeah, sounds great, okay.
What you bring?
Excellent way to spend the
What you
evening.
bring?
Some videos
Videos and,
and, and party favors.
Party favors. Yay. This was an amazing night. Oh my God.
That's that trip right there, that picture is that trip.
That one, it's a great picture.
What I want to help you.
Yeah.
I was 6 foot
Oh,
1.
yeah.
Okay, great. Not quite
5'10". What are you 5'10"?
5'9" then.
5'9" and a half. Yeah.
5'9" and 3/4, about 5'8", so.
Thanks for coming
In
out.
either case, I'm jealous. What's your sushi? Yeah, that's something she's doing. This was a great night.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.